Hello everyone and welcome to the show. My name's Rosemary and I've started this podcast called Motherhood, Career and Business. How do we do it? I guess one of the main reasons I started this podcast was because I frequently get asked, how do you do it all? And I think, unfortunately, that there isn't a platform out there at the moment where women can come and hear inspirational stories of mothers who have managed to maintain a career or start a business whilst looking after children. And I'm just here to say it is possible. It will be hard work, but it can be done. I remember in my own experience, when I had children, I didn't really have the option to stay home. And I'm not sure I would have wanted to, even if I did. So my goal was to try and make myself as valuable as possible within the workplace. And this meant constantly investing in myself, taking continuing professional education courses, and just investing in my ability to be able to maintain a career. I didn't want to be forced out of the workforce before I was ready. And so this platform will be sharing and highlighting the lives and interviewing women who are out there doing amazing things and contributing their gifts to society. So stay tuned. My first guest went from being pregnant and homeless, sleeping on doorsteps, to becoming an entrepreneur with multiple businesses making over £900,000. This unstoppable woman has a mechanical engineering degree and owns a consultancy firm. She recently opened a fitness gym in South London and is a life and business coach and owner of W Squared Coaching. This brave woman decided to uproot and move to the other side of the world with young daughter and toddler in tow and has been making waves ever since. Join me in welcoming Yemi Penn to the show. Excellent. Welcome to the show. Today I have with me Yemi Penn, and this is a phenomenal woman who's doing amazing things out there. Yemi, I'd like you to introduce yourself.
Okay. So, as you said, my name is Yemi Penn, and I guess the best way to kind of say who I am and what I do, I've titled myself an engipreneur because I'm a mechanical engineer by profession and an entrepreneur by passion. And so I fuse those both together with the view that I'm, I guess, the kind of woman that gets shit done, really.
Love it.
So much more to it, and hopefully it will come out as we talk.
Amazing. So you've kind of jumped into where I wanted to start, which was, how do you define yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way I define myself is someone who is passionate about anything that sets her soul on fire, meaning that if there is something I really love doing, or I am drawn by, or I am completely moved by, I want to investigate it a bit further. And I want to go a step further by saying, well, how can I be part of the solution? How can I be part of the group that makes things just a little bit better? And I guess that's kind of what I am. I'm driven by that.
Well, I absolutely love that. I often see the quote, do what sets your soul on fire. But I think going one step back, in order to do what sets your soul on fire, there almost needs to be some time where you're actually exploring things and trying out new things.
Absolutely. And that's really the secret, is that we've got to try it. We are so sure we know everything, and we don't realize how limited we are by just the very little world in which we live in. So you're right. We need to try more things.
Amazing. Okay, so my next question for you is that you're a mother, and this show is about, mothers who are out there doing amazing things. And one of the things I found with my own journey through motherhood is that I've learned and grown so much. And so just wondering, how do you think having children has changed you?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting question that I guess I've never really sat and answered. So my oldest is 12 years old. And I guess firstly what that did for me, because I gave birth to her when I was 24 going on 25, is that it's made me grow up probably a lot faster than I guess the world we live in typically would.
Right.
It's given me a survivor fighter instinct, because when you just have yourself to look after, even though that's hard work in itself. I have some friends who say I've only got me to look after, and I'm struggling. What of other people who have other people? And it's so right. It's already challenging enough looking after ourselves. This is mental and physical. So becoming a mum, I guess, kind of put me in that survival mode. This is where the world is just missing a real. It's missing the trick, because what being a mother, and I'm assuming a father as well, but more so a mother, because most of a lot of us would carry the children. Even if you don't carry the children, you're looking after them from a young age. It's the fact that we go back into the mode that we may have been centuries ago, when we were still having to fight for food or water against, say, predators. We go back into that instinct based kind of approach to life, and I think that's what that did for me. And as a result, it probably also unleashed an element of hunger for more, hunger for something better than what I have to be able to give my kids. So that's probably one way in which it changed me, if I could summarize it.
Amazing. And just on the back of that, how do you think you've grown since becoming a mother?
Well, this is stage, definitely. So now I have a son as well, who's nearly 6. And I think how I've grown is that I want to do more. I want to know more about me. It's so easy for you to lose yourself. I mean, how can you not? You're trying to keep another human being alive and, dare I say it, thriving. So how I've grown is the need for me to want to understand myself a lot better, to know what makes me tick. And the one thing I can tell you now that I finally get after being on hundreds of flights is, unless that gas mask is on my face, I can't save my kids. Like we say it all the time, but we got to repeat it. I can't. And yes, that might just be an analogy on the plane. For me, it's about home. If I am depleted, I have no resources to give. And if I give it, it's going to be scrapped. So for me, my growth has been around still putting me as number one. That may be hard for some people to hear, but I make no apologies for it.
You've kind of hit the nail on the head. And I think with this platform, this is my key message, is that you can't pour from an empty cup. You have so much more to give when you take care of your own needs, when you put yourself out there as well and make yourself a priority. So yeah, amazing. So my next question is, do you remember the moment you decided to go for it, sorry. And
go for it.
Just talk me through that.
Oh, go for it. I mean, that there could be so many levels. I feel like I've had like tens of go for it moments. I guess, I mean, in the midst of being a mother where I've gone for it, which was maybe not as big a risk, was when I had my daughter, and I obviously took maternity leave. I decided at the time that I was going to take the full 12 months. However, I only got paid 6 weeks maternity leave. So go figure how the hell they expect women to continue to survive on 6 weeks full pay. But for some weird reason, I took 14 months leave. And I guess for me, that was the first time. I mean, I'd done a few other little things and pieces at university, but I didn't have the responsibility of a child. But I remember thinking, well, this is the time I'm not in this quote unquote workforce, where you go to work 9 to 5. This is the time. And there was something about my creative juices that were flowing. I truly believe that, birthing in particular, yes, it comes with a lot of emotion and we need a lot of support, but it also, I think, puts us in some of the most creative spaces we've ever been. And I found myself thinking, well, I could set up a business. And this is where my first kind of business I started and definitely bombed was called Lively Kids. And that was to go into schools and teach about fitness, not just about the physical, but the mental aspects of fitness as well. And that was probably the first time I went through it. Yes, it was still a bit of a safe padding I had because I didn't have much to lose. And I had my partner at the time that may have been able to support if anything didn't come in. But that was probably the first time, because I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I mean, anybody out there who doesn't have that much to lose, you got to go for it. I mean, let's just pretend we had one life. One life. You got to go for it.
Amazing. Wow. You've kind of answered my next couple of questions. But I guess one of the things I want to touch on is, fear and taking risks, and sometimes how it paralyzes us. And just wondering, what do you tell yourself? How do you coach yourself through a new venture that might feel risky and that you might feel frightened of?
This is a big one. So if I could probably use a major extreme from that last one I did, was during my time here in Australia. So three years ago, I decided to take the plunge of working for myself, still sourcing myself out to clients. But rather than wait for an organization that was going to pay me regularly every month, I decided to back me. And that's probably the first thing I want to say before I talk about how that, kind of manifested, is I had to be my biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
So how I coach myself, and I have to do it daily. I mean, I just gave a speech to over 200, young ladies and, some of their parents and teachers. And I was still nervous as hell, but I had to coach me. And I'm so blessed that I surround myself now with the tribe that reflects where I want to grow. That's so important. This isn't about trying to hate on anybody, but sometimes our friendships, even our family, they come to a point whereby they're no longer lifting us where they want to. So this is where I'd say, be not strategic, but find the tribe that makes you want to be happy, that makes you want to contribute, that makes you want to grow. So the way I coached myself was to firstly change my negative talk. And for every fear that came through, which is a reality, was to just tell myself, okay, I hear you, voice. I hear you, fear. I hear you, all of this. So I acknowledged it. I was not, I didn't pretend as if it doesn't happen. That's an element of denial. And then I had to think of times where I have broken barriers, times where I have challenged status quo and been successful at it. For a lot of us mothers in particular, there are many, so many that we have done that we should be giving ourselves awards for every day. So for me, the biggest thing was, other people have done it. Number one, I've done it. It might have been on a smaller scale. Is anyone going to die from this? Is anyone going to get really ill from this? If the answer is no, keep it moving.
Yeah. Thank you. So I was going to ask what's been the most critical factor in achieving success, and I almost feel like you've kind of partly answered that with being your own cheerleader. I don't know, is there anything you want to add to that question?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many facets to this. So one of the most critical factors, let me see, it would be trying again, and even if it didn't work or failed, try again and again and again until you got a different outcome. I back in the past, when I would do things, sometimes it would fail and I just let it go. And that might have been because there were lots of other things, but I strongly believe in trying again. If you're really connected to why you want to be successful, why you want to specifically take part in a business idea, service or product, is even when it falls down, which is all part of the growth, to keep at it. And the other thing and it's completely lost me, but if it does, it'll come back. But those are the key things to keep on going. But make sure you stay connected to why you're doing it in the first place.
Okay. All right. So before I ask my final question, how can people get in contact with you? What's your social media handles?
Yeah, this is something I am still getting used to.
Okay.
So look, the main one for me, because I'm still very much a Facebook girl, but I am getting a lot prominent on Instagram. So I believe I'm Yemi82. And I'm going to keep it. It's the profile I've always had. I'm going to keep that there. I am also on Twitter now, which is only about a week old. Okay. And that also is just Yemi. It's Yemi Penn. So that's the best way to get hold of me. But my Instagram has my email. I've got a goal setting webinar set, I believe, for the 17th of July. And I've done that because as part of my contribution is to really offer something. Most of the time people just need that first step.
Yeah.
Where I've always typically tried to avoid doing things for free, because I think people need to value themselves enough to check in. This is something I definitely want to do for free, because this is where I'll start to see whether people are actually willing to create the space for themselves. So I typically do a lot of this publication on Twitter and Instagram. However, on Facebook, I'm under there as W Squared Coaching.
Amazing. All right. So my last question is, if you were in charge and had all power, what 3 things would you change in the world?
I tried to think about this, and I only came up with with one. However, there are a few others, but because I don't like sounding like, sounding cliche, but the first thing for me that I definitely want to do is teach tolerance. I think diversity and inclusion is a big thing, especially in the corporate world. And look, I welcome it. Someone needed to bring it in, and sometimes we're just using this to tick boxes. But one thing that I think is missing is tolerance. I think if we were able to teach and have a conversation about tolerating anything that is different to what you know, then I believe we'd have more love, which would be the other thing, like genuine love. And for people who struggle with the need for, the need for love in any relationship outside of your family, the reason why we need it is we've got far too much hate. And regardless of whatever religion or whatever you follow, that doesn't end well. So for me, one of the biggest things would be trying to teach tolerance, that just because you don't understand how somebody else is, firstly, doesn't mean you need to be scared, afraid, or combat it with anger. So that's probably the biggest thing. And like I said, the next one would be love, and understanding that love doesn't just mean that you need to do any and everything for people, but that you've got compassion. I think nowadays things are changing. Back in the day, if you had a disability, you would struggle to do many things, whether it's get on the bus, on the train.
Yeah.
But now the world is changing, and part of the reason why the world is changing is that those who are in power are probably now a lot closer to disability than they ever have been before. And so, we need more compassion. And if I was to think of anything else, I'd definitely want a lot more leaders by way of entrepreneurs. There are too many barriers. I'd be taking that barrier down. I know that society has been formed on a level of hierarchy, which in some instances I understand, but I'd want to take down a few more barriers, especially for those in less advantaged areas. And this isn't just about race or group. I mean, mothers would be one. I mean, the barriers for mothers and women to do stuff is so high, but I'd want to take that wider. Who are the group of people? Who are the communities that are often forgotten? I'd definitely be doing some stuff there.
Right, amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Yemi.
My pleasure.
Following you for a little while and just so impressed and inspired by all that you're doing. I know that you're going to continue to be amazing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right.